Hey friends, today let's do a challenge of doing this in one take. Okay, so let's go straight into the topic, and I want to talk about the recent news where Japan releasing the Fukushima nuclear treated waters back into the ocean. And I think it's a very big concern to not only many but for me and my wife, because we have thoughts of introducing Kaiser, which is our son, to the wonders of seafood, right? So with this news, right, it causes us to think whether we are going to totally avoid seafood from now on, or is there any way we can go about it, right? So I will share my thoughts in the near few minutes, right? So let's go a bit on the background, right? Why is there even this incident happening? So back then in Japan, right, there was this big earthquake, and it actually impacted the Fukushima region. And Fukushima is known to have a nuclear plant. So this nuclear plant is actually working fine, right? They have mechanism to cool it down. But because of this earthquake, it resulted in the cooling measures or cooling systems to fail to function, and that's why it resulted in a meltdown, and that's where these radioactive materials have been leaked into the nearby regions. And in order to contain this, they have to store all these materials, to treat them, and also these waters that's nearby, right, to store them in tanks and silos so that they can find a way to treat them, reduce all of these radioactive materials before they can think about what they can do next, whether to release it or whether they cannot release it because the concentrations are too high. Okay, so after they are starting to treat, right, there's actually a few ways to go about treating all of these radioactive materials. And the two most common elements that's being used to generate nuclear energy, right, is actually caesium and also strontium, right? So these are the two common ones, and people have talked about how to go about to treat it so that your waters or whatever materials will not have this compound before you can think about what to do with it. Okay, so these two materials, caesium and also your strontium, right, are the ones that is safely removed. However, there's still one compound that is not removed, and that is tritium. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, but if I'm not, do correct me. Okay, so this tritium is something that is a big concern because it comes from the isotope of, I think, hydrogen itself, which is one of the smallest elements, right? Yeah, so let's not go to the science, but mainly this tritium, right, is something that they cannot remove currently because there's no technology to go about removing it or treating it. But then the researchers found out that, hey, tritium, right, is actually found naturally in the waters that we drink, right, in the lakes, in the oceans, whatsoever. So the researchers are thinking, if we can't remove it, and this compound or this radioactive material, right, is actually naturally found. It's naturally found. It's not even synthetically or man-made, right? It's actually naturally found. So why are we able to accept this tritium naturally without having any adverse effects or any mutation in us, right? So it comes down to the concentration, right? The concentration. And so the researchers thought that if we were to remove or reduce the concentration of all of this tritium, high tritium concentration of all this treated water, right, into the ocean, which has a lot of waters, right, they will be able to reduce the concentration to a very low and acceptable regions for humans lah. But this is all just based on their assumptions. So I personally I'm not sure how it will really affect or it will not affect. But what I do know that the way that they are actually diluting it, right, is definitely not the way to go. Why is this the case, right? Because we all know that if you were to take a very sweet water, a sweet beverage, right, and if you were to pour into a cup of water, into a cup of plain water, right, the water is still going to be very sweet. And the reason is because you're dumping all of this sweet content into the water straight away. But it will be different, right, if they were to take this sweet water and dump drop by drop after they make sure that it's really diluted, right? There's two different cases. So Japan, when they release it, right, they release it in tons and tons of water, right? So nearby region is actually filled with all of this high radioactive concentrated water, and this is going to result in the marine life to be affected, right? Whether they will mutate or not, I'm not sure. But if they do, and I think that's what people are concerned about, is that this nearby marine life are going to be affected, are going to be mutated. And if these animals are going to be, or if these wildlife are going to be mutated, right, what are the chances of them moving across into the different regions of the ocean and then breeding and also causing more mutation along the way, right? So that is our concern as well. So how can we go about to safely eat, produce, or seafood that will not be contaminated or mutated, right? So these are some of the suggestions that I have, and I hope that it's going to be useful. Firstly, right, instead of buying really fresh fish that we all know to have, right, now it might be a time for us to start eating or consuming frozen products. And why is this the case? Frozen does not mean not fresh. Okay, let's clear that misconception. Frozen doesn't mean not fresh. And if that's the case, right, if we were to eat frozen fish, it means to say we are eating whatever that was being caught and also stored previously, and that's where we are definitely sure that it will be free from these radioactive materials. Okay, so that's number one. So number two, how you can go about is that instead of eating, seawater fish, right, like your tuna or even mackerels, right, you can start to look for freshwater fish instead. Okay, so I can't think of any freshwater fish right now, but you can change your the type of fish that you're eating to a freshwater fish, because freshwater fish is not coming into contact with the ocean. Okay, that's number two. And number three, I think that's where we can start to look for farm-grown seafood. Farm-grown seafood, because in the farm-grown seafood, right, these farms are actually breeding and rearing all of this seafood in a closed environment where they don't come into contact with the sea or even external factors, right? They're all grown indoor, right? So with that, it will be very safe. And these are the three things that I can think of right now that can help you or your kids to eat safe seafood that is free from mutation or contamination, and while you still can enjoy your seafood, right? So that's it for this video. I hope that you like it, and if you think it's useful, right, please share more with your friends, your family, and also more parents that are concerned about eating seafood in the near future. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more, right? I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.